Do I hold it?
No.
Is that good?
That's perfect. Perfect.
Hello everyone. Today me and my group will be going over interviewing from the employer's perspective. I'm Jolene. I'll be going over the interview process. Shanique will be going over the different types of interviews. Alex will be going over what not to do, and Kayla will be going over interview questions. So first things first is your appearance. Keep in mind you're representing the company, so you want to look good. Men should wear suit and ties with the appropriate shoes. Women, a skirt or pants with a blazer and the appropriate shoes. And you want to make sure you're clean, you smell good. You don't want to put on too much perfume or cologne to make the smell too much. And then questions, come in prepared. Don't wing it. You want to have a certain structure, and you also want to make sure your questions will flow from the answers given. And make sure the questions are professional and directed towards the task at hand. And avoid questions dealing with religion, race, gender, just because it's illegal. And then homework, make sure you do your homework. So this is obvious, but know everything about your company. Know everything about the position being filled in case the candidate has a question. And also, just make sure you know everything in case they have to ask. And know the candidate's resume and application beforehand. Change things up during the interview. Instead of the basic interview questions, definitely ask them questions that aren't like right or wrong answers. Google's known to do this, and the example we learned where it was if you were shrunk to the size of a nickel and put into a blender, how would you get out? So next is judgment. Make sure everyone comes in with a clean slate. Don't base someone off their appearance or the impression you get after the first few minutes, because after all, their talents and qualifications are what should form your opinion, and that's what's getting them the job. For an example, tattoos, some people don't like them, but you just have to look past that because that's not what's getting them the job. So study their behavior as well. You can do this by asking behavioral questions. You can also ask what's on their resume. So for example, if they put team player, ask them why, and for an example, this way you know if it's legit or if it was just a filler into the resume. And ask in the middle of the interview just to see how they react. So nonverbal communication, it's believed that a majority of face-to-face communication is presented by our tone of voice and body language. So things to be aware of yourself and just to be aware of what the candidate's doing. Eye contact, body position, fidgeting or moving, and then minimal facial expressions. So this is obvious, but make sure you actually listen to them. Take in what they say. Don't just sit there and zone out. If you need to, take notes. That helps a lot. And then respond with reflective questions to the answer they've given. And if you are unsure of their answer, just ask again for clarification. This just shows that you're listening and they'll respect you even more. So make conversation with the person you're interviewing. Don't just ask the questions. Branch out, so listen to their answer slowly and then see if you can ask them a question about that. It just makes it comfortable for both parties, and you can really see who the person is by having conversations. So evaluation, evaluate candidates on similar criteria. Have a checklist. This way it's fair for everyone. So the examples that you can use as a checklist would be relevant experience, professionalism, skill set, personality and fit, and knowledge of position. So then next is consistency. You want to maintain a consistent evaluation process so it's fair as well. So some tips to maintain the consistency is a thorough screening process, consistency in questions, having a predetermined selection criteria, and then also interview using the STAR technique, which is just rating responses out of a point system. And then after the interview, investigate. So you can contact references and old employers. Obviously, references are going to say good things about them, so reach out to their old employers just so you can see their work ethic. And then I also read somewhere to investigate further and ask the lobby man outside how they treated him, just to see how they are as a person. And then always follow up. So if you think that you picked someone for the job, make sure you give them a second interview. And you also want to keep the timing between the interview and the offer short. This way they aren't waiting and then they won't go out and find another job. And it's just the right thing to do. And also keep up with good candidates who didn't get the job, because you never know when you'll meet them. So for experience, I wanted to start up with the different type of interviews. There's phone, through the computer, and face-to-face. I've done all three, but face-to-face is definitely my favorite. It's just more comfortable. And the tip for like a phone interview is want to treat it as if you're there. Like dress up, play the part, don't sit in your bed. Experience, so the job I have now is at resorts, and the interview process that I went through was very well. They conducted it very well. The lady that interviewed me was just very nice. She knew everything about me when I first got there, and it just made it more comfortable, and it made me want to take the job. So you should also do that to the people you're interviewing. And then a bad experience was at a local restaurant. I got there, and the person interviewing me totally forgot. So they had to call him to come in. He was late. And then we were sitting there, and he would ask me questions and then just talk about to the people that would come in. And then I got the job, but I didn't take it just because the interview was so bad. So as a recap, appearance, you want to make sure you look good. Questions, have your questions prepared. Do your homework, know everything. Change it up a little bit, the interview. Judgment, don't judge people. Focus on their behavior as well. And then your nonverbal communication as well. And then also you want to listen to them, what they have to say, don't just zone out. Converse with them, it'll make the whole interview process smoother. And then evaluation and consistency, make sure everything's the same and consistent so it's fair. And then after the interview, investigate and follow up. So just ask around and then just let them know what's up after the interview. And then up next we have Shanique Williamson with the different types of interviews.
Hello everyone, my name is Shanique, and today I will be talking about the different types of interviews. And not only with the different interview styles, I will also talk about how, which ones are best, the pros and cons, as well as how they benefit you and the company. So first off, before we even start with the interviews, you should have a pre-interview list down. So before you even start with the interview, make sure that you've looked over the job description as well as the candidate's resume as well as their work history. And from that, you would also make key questions based on the work history they had as well as the resume. Goal of the interview. Basically, as HR, we want to hire the best people we can. So basically as HR, we want to have the best people we have. So also, we want to not only bring in people, we also want to really sell ourselves as employers and really sell out the company, make sure that we put out our best foot forward. Phone interviews are also known as the pre-screening interviews. Those are usually used to test out which candidates we want to have for the one-on-one interviews and which ones that we really don't want. With the phone interviews, we ask general questions about how are you, or from school and work history, as well as behavioral questions as well. With the one-on-one interview, that usually takes between 30 to 90 minutes. We usually ask really the first level questions versus their work history, their education history, really general questions just to get to know the candidate and really screen out whether we want them back or not. With informal interviews, that usually really consists of not having predetermined questions at all. With informal interviews, we really just want to go with the flow and make sure that the candidate is comfortable as well as accommodate them as well. With panel interviews, this is usually very daunting for the interviewee, but as interviewers, this helps us really just get a general consensus as well as figure out what we like about and have different perspectives on the interviewee. And on the contrary, we also have group interviews. This usually consists of 1 or 2 interviewers and have between 2 to 5 interviewees coming in fighting for the same job. Usually with this job, this takes between 30 to 90 minutes as well. And also, this tests out leadership skills and their skills as future employees. Skype interviews, this is also a way for, if the company is very far from the employee, it's a way to cut travel costs. With the Skype interviews, those usually be conducted as well as a one-to-one interview. Lunch interviews, or really mealtime interviews, are really not heard of, but they are very popular. With lunch interviews, they really want to get out of that office, like the stuffy office setting, and really get to know people outside of the office as well as their personal lives. With stress interviews, usually they're really asked, like the employer or the HR asks them multiple questions and gives them little to no time to really answer the questions or cut them off as the candidate's trying to answer the questions. Task-oriented, this is more common to see in like IT jobs and more hands-on jobs. Usually the HR or whoever's interviewing gives them a specific task to handle, and this usually based on their skills as well as their creativity skills and leadership. With behavioral interviews, we really want to know more about the future employee, really know about them personally and how they would react to future situations that may come up in hand. Usually during the behavioral interview, you're asked, oh, give me an example of a time where you did this, or give me an example of a time where someone made you mad, or how would you handle a certain situation. Usually with behavioral interviews, you really want to scope out how the employee will react to certain situations in the interview and the job as well. Second interview is pretty much like a second date. Really, you're asking them, want to get to know them more as well as offer them a job. Really, during the second interview, you ask them more about their employment history, their work history, future plans, as well as maybe even offer them a job. Okay, so for my experience, I will start off with my current job at Kennedy. I had 2 interviews in one day, one with the HR and one with my current manager now. With my HR, she really asked general questions, whereas my current manager, she asked more situational questions, asking what would I do if a patient like coded or something would happen. Also with my second experience is with my second job, and that was at Old Navy. That was with the group interview. I was competing against 2 or 3 different people, and really we wanted to make sure that you had to stand out and make sure that your leadership and make sure that you really stand out as a candidate. And also my last one is with experience, and that's with my first job at social services. I had that job, it was my first interview, and it was really one-on-one. And with the one-on-one interview, it really helped me calm down, and really I got the chance to talk to the recruiter and make sure that I really explained myself. And recap, I talked about the pre-interview to-do, as well as goals for the interview, different types of interviews, and as well as my current experience. And now I will take this over to Alex, where he's going to talk about what not to do during the interview.
Hi guys. Alright, during the interview, it's a really crucial time. Employees really need to monitor and see how the future employee is going to work throughout the whole interview process and how he's going to be beneficial to making a long-lasting career and bringing value to the organization. Now, the don't do it. When you're interviewing someone, there's a lot of important things that you shouldn't do. Asking 2 types of personal questions. You don't want to really ask them such personal questions. You want to get into how they're really going to operate effectively for the company. So the types of questions to ask, Kayla's going to cover this a little bit more after me, but you want to ask questions that not sort of like Google would ask. How do you get out of a blender? You want to ask them, what could you bring value to the organization? How are you going to bring value to it? The dream and reality. You don't want to upsell your business. If you upsell your business, you're really never going to be, the person who you're hiring is never going to be happy working for you. If you sell your company like a Fortune 500 company, and you're really a small mom and pop organization, they're really not going to have a lot of value to it because they're not going to know what to expect. Very repetitive. If you're very repetitive during the whole process, they're going to just think you're very unprofessional. And being unprofessional, you don't want to bring this to your company because it's just going to really have a negative effect on your company. You want to ask good, clean, and concise questions. Do not disturb. If you get any phone calls during the interview, it's going to look very negative.